got the app and I was trying to show them. I downloaded 10,000 books instead of. I have 6 shelves, but I just got this. It's called Eikev. It's so amazing that it has Talmud Bavli, Yerushalmi. There's everything.
Is there a cost for this, or it's free?
Free. You go on the app, just download it, and it's with all the Mefarshim, the Torah.
English?
You know, in Hebrew, but there's in English too.
Does it allow you to search for words and stuff like that?
Yeah, sure. So with the commentaries, it's amazing. All different kinds of Mefarshim. It has all the Mikrot Gedolot, all the Mikrot Gedolot. Kriyaka, Ibn Ezra, Rashi, Bala Turin. It has the Yonatan Ben Uziel, Unkelus, Chokha Israel. It has everything. 10,000 books. I'm amazed. Tuvim, Ketuvim, Mefarshim, Mesha Chochma. That's one of the rabbis.
I use it a lot. Mesha Chochma is very good. Very difficult to understand, but very good.
And plus, I downloaded just recently ago this week.
What's the name of the app?
The name of the app is the on my way. On your way.
So you can download it on your tablet.
On my tablet.
A person could download it on their computer, on their hard drive?
Yeah, sure. Download it. And you could walk with it if you have any questions, if you feel bored on the train or at work. You don't have to carry 6-7 books. You just open it and just read it.
Sounds good. Okay, let's go learn some Torah. I have to leave maybe 9:25 in order to get home. I have people coming to see me. It's not unusual. Okay, ready? Parasha's Eikev. Now, we have to understand that in the last few weeks, Parashas Devorim, V'Aschan, and Eikev are beautiful parshios. It's poetry. Moshe Rabbeinu speaking to the Jewish people is like a father, like a grandfather speaking to his children. He talks about things that have happened in the past, things that they were involved in, things their parents were involved in, and he goes over things. He talks about the 10 Commandments, the Aseret Hadibros. And last week we had the Aseret Hadibros repeated. He talked about the breaking of the tablets, the Chet Egel. He did it in Devorim, V'Aschan, and he does it again in Eikev. He talks about the man, the travels in the desert, the 40 years. That means Moshe is literally a father speaking to his children, knowing that the father is towards the end of his life, trying to teach his children all the things that are happening. So, Parshas Eikev, it says, V'hoya Eikev tishma'u. Now, Eikev is a difficult word. It's interesting, Yaakov has the word Eikev in it. That means the name Yaakov is Yud Ayin Kuf Beis. Eikev and Yaakov is the same. Now, when Yaakov was called Yaakov, it was because he was holding the heel of his brother. So the word Eikev means heel, the bottom of your foot. So it's an unusual word, and it will be, when you listen, with the heel of your foot. So Rashi jumps in, and Rashi says, the mitzvos that people don't keep, they trample, they walk on these mitzvos, because they're so simple. If you keep those mitzvos, the real easy mitzvos that people don't even think about, then if you do that, Hashem will send you all these brachos. And it gives a whole bunch of brachos here. Va'evcha, I will love you. Ubeiracha, I'll bless you. V'yirbecha, I'll multiply you. It goes through a whole bunch of brachos. So what are the mitzvos that Rashi is referring to? What would you say are the simple mitzvos that people don't even think about? Netilas yadayim, washing your hands. Okay. People wash their hands for hamotzi, quick. They don't give 2 thoughts about it. They don't necessarily wash their hands slowly. They don't wash them with kavanah. Quick, things that are simple. Other mitzvos that are not thought of in great detail.
Sleeping? Is that a mitzvah?
Well, sleeping is not a mitzvah per se. While you sleep, most of the time, you don't do any averos. So that's not so bad. They used to say that there was a rabbi who used to give a class. And someone said to the rabbi, your class is not that successful. Because during your class, 50% of the people are sleeping for the hour. So he says, they're not learning Torah if they're sleeping. So he says, well, if they're sleeping, they're not doing Averos. They're not speaking Lashon Hara, they're not doing sins. So if I put 50% of the class to sleep for 1 hour, I get the reward that they didn't do any Averos. So the rabbi was able to say that it wasn't such a bad thing that I put people to sleep. It's not the end of the world. The big mitzvos people keep. By and large, kashrut. Let's say those are the big mitzvos people keep. But even in kashrut, there are small areas of kashrut that people are not so careful about. Someone was asking me the other day, how do we know which Slurpees are kosher? 7-Eleven. You go to 7-Eleven, you want a Slurpee. So the truth is, there's a list. Most 7-Elevens don't have the list, and if you look at the package on the Slurpee, there's no kosher symbol. But the CRC, which is the Chicago Rabbinical Council, on their website, has a list of which Slurpees are kosher, which are not. And they constantly update it. So it's not that difficult. You pull out your smartphone, and you go and you type in CRC, and you'll see a list of kosher Slurpees. But not everybody's that careful, right? People say, all the Jews eat Slurpees. What could be the problem in the Slurpee? And you're right, 90% of the Slurpees don't have a problem. But the few that do, you may not know about it unless you check the list. So it says that there are many mitzvos that people just don't think about. They know about it. If you would say to a person, you don't keep kosher, you'll say, Chas v'shalom, of course I keep kosher. But you didn't check the Slurpee list. He won't connect it to him. He won't say, well, of course I keep kosher, what's the problem? Things, you'll say here, water. Does this have a hechsher? It has an OUP. Right? So that means it's kosher for Pesach. Hi, is it kosher now for Pesach? So you would say, if it's kosher for Pesach, of course it's kosher all year round. Other people might say to you, it's water. What could be not kosher about water? You're right, probably nothing. Probably there's nothing that you need a hechsher for. But that's what it says. Now, it's very interesting. There's a Sefer Orach L'Chaim. He says that the word Eikev is part of an expression. There's an expression in the Gemara called Ikvasa the Meshicha. It comes from the word Eikev. Ikvasa the Meshicha means the period of time right before Mashiach comes. Now, what's that period? The Gemara talks about it. You know what the Gemara says about the period of time right before Mashiach comes? How does the Gemara describe it? Is it a time that everybody's doing mitzvahs or no one is doing mitzvahs? Is it a time that people enjoy life or they're afraid to live? What is that period of time? So Gemara brings down the famous Gemara, and it brings down from Ula and Rabba. Ula and Rabba both say, Ikvasa the Mashiach, I can't wait for Mashiach to come, but I pray I won't be alive during those days. that period of time is supposed to be one of the worst times in world history. The Ikvasa the Mashiach, right before the very end, it's almost as if the entire world is falling apart. If what can go wrong, everything goes wrong. Literally, the Gemara discusses that period of time as a period of time that people dread. They'd rather not see it. And if they live through it, it's an amazing thing that they can live through it. Think about the world today. 20 years ago, they thought the world was in bad shape. What would you say today? How is the economy in Europe these days? Horrible. What's happening in Iran? Yes, no, horrible. The whole Middle East situation, in Israel. So in Israel now they're arresting Jewish militants. You know what that means? That means there's Islamic extremists. You know what that term means? Islamic extremists. So now they're arresting in Israel Jewish extremists because there was a firebomb and a little baby got killed, and I think the father of the baby got killed. So Meir Kahana's grandson was arrested. The Israeli government can arrest you and hold you in jail for 6 months for no reason. Did you know that?
No.
Did you know that the Israeli government has the power, if they want to arrest, I guess, any citizen, and they can throw you in jail for no reason, and they can hold you for 6 months.
Why? No.
No charges. That's the law. Now, in the United States, if you get arrested,
One day.
chas v'sholom, a person gets arrested,
One day.
they have to charge you.
24 hours.
Right. If they don't charge you, your lawyer brings what's called a writ of habeas corpus. Habeas corpus is Latin. Many of the laws and the terms in law are Latin laws. Why, I don't know. But Latin, even when you make a brief, the numbers that they use often are Roman numerals. As if to say Italy and the Roman Empire were very big on law. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what it is. Habeas corpus means produce the dead body. You arrested me? Why? You have to charge me. Either charge me or let me go. And if you charge me, you have to prove the crime. It's called habeas corpus. If I think the police arrested me for no good reason, I can ask at the trial, you're before the judge, to plead guilty or not guilty. My lawyer could file a motion for summary judgment. Basically what it means is, I want them to tell me what the case is. What's the case? Give you a bad example. A person is sleeping in their home at night. All of a sudden, the front door gets smashed in, the police come charging in, they rip up your whole house apart and they arrest you. What's the charge? Drug possession. Drug possession. Now, it's time to say to the police, I don't deal with drugs. But you're in jail. No one's listening to you. So your lawyer has to go before the court. You go before the court, district attorney says, we're holding this person for drug possession. Did you find any drugs? No. But we know he's a drug dealer. So your lawyer says, how do you know he's a drug dealer? Very simple. We have information. Who gave you the information? We have a snitch. Some drug dealer who struck a deal. And what happened? The address that he gave was 8424 116th Street. It's my house. So they called the snitch, and the snitch says 8416. No, 84. It was 18424. It's in Fresh Meadows. It has nothing to do with Kew Gardens. So I get an apology, and I'm let go. And of course, my house is smashed. So now I have to file a civil suit against the police. The police will say, well, we had a warrant, so we had the right to go in. But it was a mistake. Well, mistakes happen. But I got to fix the mistake. My house is smashed. You smashed my front door. You tore up all the beds. They cut all the beds to look for drugs. You cannot hold a person in jail for no reason. You have to have a warrant and you have to have a reason. You have to have proof. But that's not what it is there. That's not what it is in Israel, from what I understand. Extremists, they can do whatever they want.
Socialism.
Socialism, to some degree, Israel is not the democracy they make it out to be. It is, to a certain degree, a socialistic government. So he brings down over here, V'hoya Eikev tishmuru. You live at a time when the whole world is just paranoid, falling apart. Pick up a newspaper any day, today.
Every day.
How many bombings were there in the Middle East, in the Islamic communities, in Afghanistan, Pakistan, every day? There are bombings, 20 people dead, 30 people dead. Come to America, the police, blacks, nowhere you go. There's nowhere safe, it seems. You can't escape it. Ikvosei the Mashiach. It's a time in a person's life when they just feel the world is falling apart. The whole world is falling apart. It's not what the science fiction books wrote about, that aliens are going to come. We're not even at aliens. You know who's our worst enemy? Ourselves. We're our worst enemy. Now, he brings down an interesting story here. There's the Gera Rebbe. The Gera Rebbe was Rav Pinchas Menachem Alter. The last name Alter, or most of the Gera Rebbes have that last name. He wrote a sefer called Pinchas, the Pnei Menachem. That was a book he wrote. And he was recently the Gera Rebbe. He says that once one of his Hasidim came to him and said to him, I don't know what's going on, he says. I'm always sick. I'm constantly having to go see doctors. And whenever I go see doctors, I'm always subject to surgery. I've had surgery on my leg, on my hand, on my wrist, on my neck, on my stomach. I'm always getting sick, and I'm always in surgery. That means the doctors are cutting me up piece by piece. What's going on? Why is this happening to me? So the Ger Rebbe doesn't know. He's not a Novi. So he says to the guy, tell me a little bit about your life, what you do. And he tells a little bit about his job and his house and what he does. He says, on Shabbos, what kind of a Shabbos do you have? He says, we have a beautiful Shabbos. I have 10 children. We all sit around the Shabbos table. We sing songs, we say the Divine Torah, and we talk. Every kid talks about school or what he does and the week. We spend hours sitting around the Shabbos table talking. So the Ger Rebbe says, and you talk about people? He says, well, you talk. You talk about the neighbors, you talk about the community, and you talk about politics. So we talk about people all the time, we talk about people. And he says, and how do those people make out in your conversations? He says, well, sometimes, they get chopped up pretty bad. They get cut up pretty bad. So the Ger Rebbe says, if you stop chopping up people, the doctors will stop chopping you up. That's what the Ger Rebbe says. He says, if at your table, if you're dissecting people and you're telling stories about different people and their lives and everything else, if you're cutting into people, like cutting their heart out, he says, well, what do you think Hashem is going to do to you? He's going to put you under the knife. And the story goes that they stopped doing that. They stopped talking all this Lashon Hara. And believe it or not, no one got sick anymore and things got better. That's a story they bring down by the Ger Rebbe. So everything is connected. It says, we talked about this last week, that Moshe Rabbeinu says that he went up to Shemayim and he was there for 40 days and 40 nights. He didn't eat any bread, he didn't drink any water. So, and he says this a few times. So is he bragging? What's Moshe Rabbeinu doing? Is he trying to tell the people, me, I like a good meal, and I was in Shemayim for 40 days and 40 nights, I didn't eat anything. So last week I told you the whole thing, how he didn't do mitzvos up there. He gave up mitzvos in order to give the Torah to the Jewish people. There was a Rosh Hashiva in Los Angeles. His name was Rav Simcha Wasserman. His father was Rebbe Chonon Wasserman. Rebbe Chonon Wasserman died in the Holocaust. He was in Baranovich. He was a big Rosh Hashiva, and he went back to Europe, even though he knew it was not safe. And eventually he got killed by the Nazis. His son, Reb Simcha Wasserman, opened up a yeshiva in Los Angeles. Very nice man. He has since passed away. Never had children. He was married. It's interesting. Certain Gedolim never had children. Reb Henech Leibowitz never had children. The Lubavitcher Rebbe never had children. There were certain people that never had children. Just interesting that they never had children. Reb Simcha Wasserman never had children. He had hundreds, thousands of students, Talmidim, who were dear to him as children, but he himself never had children. So he brings down, he says something very interesting. He says, the Torah is compared to bread. We often say, shlach lachmacha pnei hamayim, throw your bread upon the waters, you never know what you're going to get. Lo ala lechem levado yichya adam, a person doesn't live by bread alone. They make comparisons, the Torah to bread. He says it's very interesting. If you think about food, there are two parts to food. The first part is we sit down at the table and we have a nice meal in front of us. So we make a bracha. What's the purpose of the bracha? We're about to enjoy the meal. So the first part of the enjoyment comes from eating the meal. Right? You don't eat food you don't like. You eat food you like, most of us. If you're married, you eat whatever your wife serves you.
Yeah.
Do you like it? You better like it. Right?
You don't like it, you're not going to eat no more.
That's right. This is not a restaurant, and it's not a menu. You understand?
You have to eat.
You have to eat. And you eat whatever your wife serves you. And again, remember, it's not a restaurant, and there's no menu. Got it.
You want to go restaurant, whatever you want to eat.
Go restaurant, make sure you take your wife with you. So the first part is the food you eat. You enjoy it. So you're sitting at the table and you eat. You drink soda, you drink water, you have an appetizer, you have a dessert, whatever it is, you enjoy the food. That's the first part. Then there's a second benefit. What's the second benefit? The first benefit is the food itself, enjoying eating the food. What's the second benefit from the food?
Baracha.
Energy from the food?
From the food. The food gives you energy.
Yeah.
That means what you eat is the food because you're hungry. That's the immediate benefit. But if you're a thinking person, you realize that for the next 4 or 5 hours, after a good breakfast or lunch or supper, you're not eating anything. So that food is converted into energy. And that runs your whole body, right? The food runs your whole body. Some food is very good for the memory, for the brain. Some food you eat is good for the heart. People eat cashews or almonds because nuts are very good for the body. It fights cancer. They say if you eat nuts, it fights cancer. Broccoli fights cancer. That means there's benefit to food that you don't see for the next few hours as the food is going through your system, right? There are benefits. He says the same thing is with Torah. A person learns Torah. You go to a shir. You enjoy the shir. So you have a benefit immediately. Okay, wow, that was a wonder. Remember a few weeks ago we talked about the Beis Hamikdash and Tisha B'Av and all these different things. And and we sat back and we said, wow, we had a great shir. Hours later, that Torah benefits you because it's in your head, it's in your system. You don't see it, you don't feel it. But you have to believe that the Torah benefits you. Same way when you come to shul to daven. You come Shabbos morning, you have a nice tefillah, 3 hours, then you sleep all afternoon, you rest, but you benefit from that davening. You don't see it, but in your system, it's got to do something. Those mitzvahs are accumulating in your system. So Rav Simcha Wasserman says, you have to understand that Torah is like food. It's food for the soul. There's food for the body, there's food for the soul. The same way the food for the body tastes good going in, and for hours it helps keep your body going, so too the Torah is food for the neshama. It's supposed to taste good going in, unless the rabbi is screaming at you because you're not doing mitzvahs. Then it's like medicine. Sometimes doesn't taste so good. But assuming that you're all good people, so the rabbi doesn't have to give you too much of a strong musar. So it's supposed to taste good going in, and it's supposed to be food for the neshama. It's supposed to make you feel good all day. I mean, it's supposed to make you feel happy. You accomplish something. And that's what it says. And he brings it down from a Rambam. That it's Simcha Wasserman. It's something to do that is something very enjoyable. Now, Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu goes up to Shamayim. Moshe Rabbeinu spends 40 days and 40 nights in Shamayim. He's Moshe Nefesh. He sacrifices himself for the Jewish people. And he tries to tell this to the Jewish people. I went one time, I got the luchos. I came back, I saw the golden calf. I broke the luchos. I went back for 40 days to do one thing, daven for you, that Hashem should forgive you. Hashem says, I forgive them. Then I went up again 40 days coming down on Yom Kippur. 3 times he went up to Shamayim. So Mordechai Kamenetsky brings an interesting story. He says there was a yeshiva high school that in 9th grade there was a kid who was a real troublemaker. That means he was a decent kid. He wasn't as if he was on drugs, but he misbehaved. So whoever was his teacher, his Hebrew teacher, the Rabbi, he made his Rebbe's life a little bit miserable. Do any of you know any kids like that can make the Rebbe's life miserable? I know many kids like that. Okay. So now it's the summer, and they're setting up the classes for 10th grade. And this yeshiva has, let's say, 3 or 4 10th grades. Comes the question, where are we going to put this kid? The 10th grade teacher in 10A says, I don't want him. I know what he did last year. My friend told me last year, I don't want him in my class. The teacher in 10B says, don't give him to me. I'm not interested in him. The teacher in 10C says, no way. I've been here longer than both of them. If anybody's going to get him, they're going to get him, not me. They realized that in the 4th, 10th grade was a brand new teacher. He just was hired that year. So he doesn't know about this kid. So they figured, we'll give it to him. But they said, how could you do that? This 4th new teacher is so adel, so gentle. He talks very softly. He never raises his voice. You put this kid in his class, you know what he's going to do? He'll eat this guy for supper. He'll destroy this teacher. This teacher won't last a week. But the principal says, you don't want him, you don't want him, you don't want him, he doesn't know him, we're going to stick him there. Sticks him in that class. And everybody holds their ears and their eyes and pretends, no, doesn't know anything. A week later, 2 weeks later, principal goes over to the teacher and says, so how's your class? He says, oh, very nice. How are the kids? Oh, they're wonderful, they're wonderful. Is this particular boy, let's say his name was Moshe Rubin. How is Moshe Rubin doing? Oh, he's doing fine, fine. How's his behavior? Oh, it's fine, it's fine. Doesn't make sense, right? Doesn't make any sense. So the principal is walking the hallway, and he sees this kid, Moshe Rubin, is going to the bathroom, coming back. So he says to Moshe, can I talk to you for a moment? He says, sure, Rabbi. What would you like? How's it going? It's going fine. How's your behavior? It's okay. Are you listening to the Rabbi? Of course. He says, Moshe, I have to ask you. Last year, you made your teacher miserable. This year, everybody's telling me what an angel you are. What happened? What changed? He says, you know what, Rabbi, let me tell you what changed, he says. The new Rabbi you hired is such a tzaddik. He davens so beautifully, and he's so humble, and he talks so softly. I don't want to misbehave in his class because he's like a malach, he's like an angel. So I don't want to hurt him. The other teachers, they were loud, and they would yell at me, I would yell at them. It was fun. This guy, if I cause trouble, he'll cry. I'll break his heart. I don't want to do it. So in his class, I behave. That's what he said. So Mordechai Kamenetsky says, Moshe Rabbeinu said to the Jewish people, when I came down after the first 40 days on the mountain and I saw the golden calf, I broke the luchos. That was what Hashem gave me. But something else got broken that day. You know what got broken that day? My heart. I cried. I spent 40 days and 40 nights on the mountain only to come to see a golden calf. I cried. And that's what Moshe Rabbeinu says. I'm like a malach. I was in Shemayim for 40 days, 40 nights. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. So the Bnei Yisrael began to realize Moshe really loves us. Moshe really cares about us. Moshe is like a malach. So if we want to do an Aveira, okay, I get it. The Yetzer Hara gets the better of us. But to do an Aveira that would hurt Moshe Rabbeinu, we can never do that. We can never do that. And therefore he said, they said we're not going to do that mistake again, and they didn't do that mistake again. I remember I was once counseling a couple, and they were having some difficulties. And the wife said, if things don't improve, I'm gonna go back home. I'm gonna call my parents. I'm gonna go back home. And the boy said, no. Whatever you do, don't go back home. And I asked the boy why. If it's not working out, let her go back home. So he said to me, I remember this was years ago. He said to me, Rabbi Bryks, my in-laws are the nicest people in the world. They treat me with such respect. They give me whatever I want. If my wife goes back home, it will break their heart. And I just cannot live with the fact that I broke their heart. He didn't care about his wife's heart. He cared about his father-in-law and his mother-in-law's heart. So I said to him, so if you don't want to break your in-law's heart, do something about it. And he began to change. And things got better. Things got really better. And the marriage survived. And they done very well. All because his in-laws showed him so much love, he didn't want to break their heart. Moshe Rabbeinu showed Bnei Israel so much love that even if the Jews wanted to do an Aveira, they were afraid to. Not of Hashem sometimes. They were afraid to hurt Moshe Rabbeinu. They were afraid to hurt Aaron HaKohen. So when Moshe tried to explain to them how much he loved them, that kept him straight and narrow. They say Yosef was this close with Ashes Potiphar, right? This close he was going to give in. And what did he remember? His father. And he said, how can I do it? If I do it, my father will be so disappointed. He didn't say Hashem will be angry at me. He didn't say your husband will try to kill me. Who Who was he afraid of? His father. His father wasn't even there. And he wasn't afraid of his father. He wasn't afraid that his father was going to punish him. He was afraid to disappoint his father. That means you can accomplish a lot more with love than with fear. He wasn't afraid of Hashem or being punished by his father. He was afraid of being disappointed by his father. Very often when my mother-in-law comes to me every Shabbos, my father-in-law passed away, so she often comes to us with her aide, and she needs a ride home, and she lives in Brooklyn. Now, okay, it's not a big trip, but you have to understand, it's 45 minutes there, it's 45 minutes back, then you have to take her into the house. It's 2 hours. Now, not everybody can give up 2 hours in their day, you know, and most of the times I'll drive her back. This week I just couldn't, my wife drove her back. But very often I'll drive my mother-in-law back. And my wife will say to me, that was a very nice thing that you did. I said, thank you. She says, just for that, you're still in the will. You know, like my mother-in-law will keep me in the will. She won't write me out. That means sometimes you do something because you want the positive reaction. It's not about negative. You know, there's an old saying, you can catch more bees with honey than with vinegar. You know, that's really what it is. So that's what Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to say to them. Moshe Rabbeinu was trying to show them, I love you so much, so please don't do Averos. Not because Hashem will be angry, because I'll be angry. I'll be disappointed. And that's what our job is as parents. Our job is as parents and grandparents is to give our children and grandchildren so much affection that they don't want to hurt you. Not only do they love you, but they just don't want to hurt you. That's how we deal with our parents, you know. And we all have that. You know, my kids in the summer, my grandchildren go to camp. But there are periods of time after school before camp starts, and there's a period of time after camp ends before school starts. So they're home for that week. What are they supposed to do? So I started Camp Zaidi. Zaidi means grandfather. I started my own camp, and I take them places. I'll take them to Adventureland, I'll take them to the Museum of Natural History, I'll take them to the Science Museum, I'll take them to Bounce. Bounce is where they have these like balloons and everything, they bounce, they just run crazy. I'm just tired watching them. They can go for hours on Bounce. But you do these things. Why do you do these things? Because you're investing time. That's all children want. They want time, they want your time. So you do it whatever time you can do. That's called investing time in Camp Zaidi. Okay, in this week's Parsha, we have the one bracha that is from the Torah.
Eikev.
In Eikev. Which bracha is from the Torah? Birkat Hamazon. It says, V'ochalta, you eat, V'savata, and you're satisfied, Ube rachta, and you shall bless Hashem, right? So the Gemara bracha says, from here we see, we have one bracha min haTorah, that bracha is Birkas Hamazon. Then the Gemara says, how do you know you make a bracha before you eat? I know Birkat Hamazon, I make a bracha after I eat. How do I know before I eat I have to wash the Tilat Yadayim, I have to make hamotzi, I have to make a shahakol? How do I know before? That's what the Gemara asks. The Gemara says, Kal v'chomer. If after I have the meal I have to make a bracha, how much more so before I have to make a bracha? The Gemara says that if a person eats without making a bracha, he's stealing from Hashem. The whole world belongs to Hashem. What gives you permission to eat? You make a bracha as Hashem gives it to you as a gift. Then the Gemara says there's another bracha that's from the Torah, and then the Gemara doesn't hold by it. Birkas HaTorah, the bracha before the Torah. Why? Because there's a pasuk in Ha'azinu, Ki Shem Hashem Ekra, when you call Hashem's name, Hovu Godel Elokeinu, give greatness to Hashem. So we learn from here to make a bracha, Birkas HaTorah. Asher bracha bon mikol ha'amim v'nosel lo nestorasa bracha Hashem noten HaTorah. Birkas HaTorah. The Gemara again goes back and forth, back and forth. The Meshech Chochmah has this whole thing over here. The Meshech Chochmah comes back with a fascinating thing. He says, brachos are only midrabanan. But I know a source for brachos. There's a concept of hakarat hatov. What does that mean? Hakarat hatov. Lahakir tov. What does that mean? It means to say thank you. That means hakarata tov means if a person does you a favor, you're supposed to thank them for the favor they did. That means it's a Torah concept. There's something called hakarata tov, showing favor, recognizing the good people do. That means if someone does you a favor, you're supposed to say thank you. That's from the Torah. So he says, everything that Hashem does, He gives you eyes, He gives you the ability to go to the bathroom, He gives you the ability to walk, to put on shoes, clothes, everything. All the brachos we make in an average day, why do we make them? Why do we make these brachos? No, Asher lo san lasech v'vinu lachim ben yom leil, Asher lo shelo asani goy, shelo asani ovid, shelo asani shelo pokeach ivri. Why do we make all these brachos? We're saying thank you. Thank you to who? Hashem. Modeh ani lefonecho. Appreciation. That means there's a mitzvah in the Torah to show appreciation. Not only is there a mitzvah in the Torah to show appreciation to each other, but even to show appreciation to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Meshech Chochmah says that all brachos has as its source showing appreciation to Hashem. For that reason, he says we should make brachos. Whenever we make a bracha, it's showing appreciation to Hashem. Then he says something very, very interesting, very interesting. He says, in the first Beis HaMikdash, you could still see miracles.
Still what?
See miracles. You had the lechem hapolim, it was on, the menorah burnt. He says it was very easy to say thank you to Hashem when you could see miracles. In the second Beit HaMikdash, there were no more miracles. Which bracha was written during the days of the second Beit HaMikdash? In the Birkat HaMazon, there's different brachot. After the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, and during the second Beit HaMikdash, they wrote a bracha in the Birkat HaMazon.
Harachaman?
What?
Harachaman?
No. Before that?
Oh.
Actually, after that, but it says, Uvinei Yerushalayim miracles b'Yeruchim, Bonei B'Rachmo Yerushalayim Omein. Then comes, what comes after that? Hu Heitiv, Hu Meitiv, Hu Yeitiv. Hatov v'Hameitiv.
Oh.
The bracha is saying, thank you Hashem. Hakarat Hatov, thank you Hashem. That bracha was written during the second Beit HaMikdash. The Meshech Chochmah says that during the second Beit HaMikdash, people felt abandoned. They couldn't see Hashem because there were no miracles. So people felt they were alone, that Hashem was hiding His face and they were alone in the world. Then came the massacre at Beitar. Hundreds of thousands of Jews were killed. The Romans wouldn't let you bury the bodies. Years later, when they buried the bodies were still insane. When they saw this miracle that was hidden, they said, you know what? We see, the Meshech Chochmah writes, we see Hashem has not forgotten us. He did not abandon us. He still remembers us. So in the Birkat HaMazon, they wrote this bracha. The last section of the Birkat HaMazon is thank you Hashem for all the wonderful things you've done. It's the bracha hatov v'hameitiv. You know what that bracha is? It's called hakarat hatov. It's a thank you to Hashem. Why do we say thank you? We say thank you for the goodness a person does. If a person does you a favor, you're supposed to say thank you. How many times do you have to say thank you to a person if he does you a favor? If a person drives you, you're walking, and a person pulls up and says, where are you going? He says, well, I have to go to the subway. He says, well, I'll drive you. How many times do you have to say thank you for being driven to the subway?
A couple of times.
A couple of times. You know that there's no limit. You might have to say thank you for the rest of your life. There's no limit. There's no limit. And we call that loyalty. Now it's very interesting. There's another mitzvah. If a person does you a favor, now you want to do that person a favor back. And he says, no need. He's wrong. If he did you a favor, he also has to let you do him a favor back. Otherwise, it's always a one-way street, and you can't live life in a one-way street. That means, believe it or not, if I do a person a favor, and they want to do a favor back to me, even if I really don't need it, I'm supposed to say, yes, no problem. I'm supposed to let him do for me a favor. Because this way, at least he feels good that he paid me back. Otherwise, I'm walking around as if I'm doing you the favor and you're giving me nothing back. You know what that means, don't you? There's going to come a point in time that I'm going to sit there, and once a week, one of you guys are going to come up here and give the share. Kind of do me a favor. I'm going to be on vacation for a few weeks, and you're going to be doing your share. No, but that's what it means. It means that you have to do favors back and forth. It's a two-way street. Because if you don't let a person pay you back, then it's one way.
Yeah.
There you go. They bring down an interesting story from the Chazon Ish. You know who the Chazon Ish was in Yerushalayim, in Bnei Brak, very big tzaddik. They say that when he made a bracha, he would make a bracha, with all his kavanah. When he got sick, towards the end of his life, it was very hard for him to concentrate. So he couldn't make a bracha. Because just to make a bracha, sha'kol niyeh bidvaro, like that, he wouldn't do. And to make the bracha with all the kavanah, he couldn't do. So he was stuck. And he stopped eating because he couldn't make the bracha, and he wouldn't make the bracha quickly. Finally, his doctor said to him, you don't have to make brachas anymore, because you need to eat. Sakanat nefashot, you can eat without making brachot. And after that, he started to eat without making brachot. Now, the story is so hard to understand. Imagine you make brachot with a lot of kavanah, right? You think about it and you say very carefully, Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Borei Minei Mizoros. You say it very carefully. What happens if you don't have the time to think carefully? Is it better not to make a bracha? Or is it better to make a bracha?
Better not.
He says it's better not to. I would have thought, just say the bracha. What difference does it make? I can't think. I'm on the subway. I can't make the bracha. Look at all it. So don't eat. But I'm hungry. I have to eat. It's a crazy question. What's better? Make a bracha, but not such a great bracha, or don't make a bracha at all. The Chazon Ish says he didn't make a bracha. And he brings down from the Medrash Tanchuma, he says during the days of David HaMelech, every day David HaMelech got reports 100 people died.
Yeah.
Okay? Now that's a scary thought. Today, every day more than 100 people die in the world, and we don't even look twice. We look at the newspaper, and 50 people here got blown up in this mosque, and this place, and that place. We don't even know where to turn. David HaMelech was so upset. How is it possible that I'm the king, and I can't protect my people, that every day 100 people die? And I guess they must have died in a strange way. That means they didn't die of old age. They must have gotten killed. Something that David HaMelech felt he could have prevented. They say Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai was so great that in his lifetime they never saw what?
A rainbow.
A rainbow. He was so great, he protected his whole generation that there never was a rainbow. That means Hashem never got angry. So David HaMelech said, so someone said to him, a pasuk in this week's Parasha, what does Hashem want from you? Ma Hashem Shoel. The word ma, mem hey, if you add an aleph to it, says meya, 100. So David HaMelech says, I make a takana, every Jew. Let us make 100 brachos every day. And when David HaMelech and all the Jews started to make 100 brachos every day, they stopped dying. Okay? It's okay. He's not doing any averos. It doesn't bother me. There's an old story. A rabbi's giving a speech, and there's a baby crying. So the mother takes the baby out of the room. And the rabbi says, "Don't worry, he's not bothering me." So the mother says, "I know, Rabbi, but you're bothering him." He's crying. You're bothering him. So he goes to leave the room.
For this case, the Jews never say 100 brachos.
You know what? If you think about it, it's not so easy. Today it's easy to say 100 brachot.
Yeah.
But in those days it was. Let me give you an example. How many brachot do you think you say on an average day?
100 for myself?
Yeah. Do you think you say 100 brachos every day? If you go to shul. Okay, got it. You go to shul, the Shemona Esrei is 18 brachos, that's 3 times. 18 and 18 is 36 is 54, right? And there's 19 brachos really, it's not 18, 19, and then you have the brachos in the morning, and then they repeat the Shemona Esrei, and you say Amen. You're right. If you were a farmer living in Israel, so you didn't go to shul because you're a farmer, there's no shul nearby. How many, could you say 100 brachos? Maybe if you washed 3 times a day, and you did Birkat HaMazon, and you put on your tzitzit, and you put on your tefillin, it's not easy.
20.
And you know what people did. Customs you have. There are customs you have because of David HaMelech. They couldn't make up the 100 brachos. You know what they did? They saw psamim, spices during the day. So they would grab the psamim, Borach Ato Hashem, Borach Minei psamim. They would smell psamim. Just every few hours. Right? Don't you do that? Don't Sfaradim have atzei psamim and they put in the... Why do you do that?
I do.
Why? Because you to make up the brachot. That's why.
For example, if you have water or like you said the samim or almond, if you want to make brachot more than once a day, how long do you have to wait? If you say shakol, how long do you have to wait to say shakol again?
Probably a good 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
But I'll give you a day. Yom Kippur. Okay?
All day.
You're not eating. And the Shemona Esrei only has 7 brachot.
Yeah.
Right? It's Yontav.
Short one.
Short. So think about it.
Five,
You have 5 tefillot.
yeah.
Some have chazara, some don't. So even if it's 7 times
35.
5 is 35, times 2
35.
is 70.
Okay.
So then you have the Torah brachot and the
Yeah.
brachot in the morning. But remember, you're not washing your hands, and once in a while you're not, to get 100 brachot in Yom Kippur, you almost cannot miss a tefillah, you cannot miss a bracha. So what do we do in Yom Kippur to make it up? People keep besamim by them, and they're always smelling besamim, they're making brachot all the time.
Oh, you can do that? You can do that on your Kippur?
Yeah, on Yom Kippur, people have besamim by them, and they're always smelling the besamim or the leaves. Why? To make up 100 brachot. It's not so easy. It's not so easy.
We have special for roses stuff, and the kohenim is coming,
Right.
and I put the water to him. I give the spray to water with them hand because I give the bracha for people. The rose stuff,
It smells.
Something Sephardic
Okay,
stuff.
so they smell. So it's interesting. So David HaMelech said, 100 brachot saves 100 lives. Make a bracha to save people's lives. Why? Because a bracha is saying thank you. I once told you this. When you get up in the morning, before you do anything else, you're supposed to wash the Tilat Yadayim, right?
Yes.
People even keep a
Water
next to their bed.
Yes.
So they don't even have to get up, they don't even walk a foot before. According to halacha, there's one thing you can do before Netilat Yadayim. What is that?
Modani lefnei.
Modani. You know why? Because to say thank you
When I wake
comes
up,
first
I ask,
before anything.
"Modani lefanek melech."
Modani means thank you, Hashem.
Yeah, thank you.
You can't do anything before you wash your hands. The one exception is to say thank you. To say thank you, you can do even before you wash your
Good to
hands.
go.
Okay? I don't know if we say Shaviti Hashem Adeni for me. That's like a pasuk. I would wash my hands first. Moda'ani first, then you wash your hands.
3 steps from the bed.
Yeah. Hoda'ah, thank you. Saying thank you. Kol ha-neshamot tahalayo. We repeat it twice. All the neshamot should thank you. So, the answer is, so Rav Shimshon Pinkus once said, a person's goal is to try to follow the Torah. But a person's goal in life is to get as close as they can to Hashem. That's a person's goal, right? Your goal in life. If you ask the person, why are you on this world? You would say, to do Hashem's job. And how do you do Hashem's job? The closer you get to Hashem, the better. So Shimshon Pinkus says, how do you get close to a person? You know how you get close to a person? You say thank you. By saying thank you, by appreciating the other person, when the other person knows that you appreciate them, you get close to them, right? So you want to get close to a person, you say thank you. So if you want to say thank you, how do you do that? With brachos. So we say 100 brachos. Why? Because by saying brachos all the time, we're able to do it. Now, think about this. A few weeks ago on Shabbos Chazon in Yeshayahu, There's a famous pasuk. The pasuk says, Yoda shor koneu. An ox knows his master. V'chamor ebus ba'olav. What does that mean? Yeshayahu HaNavi says to the Jewish people at the time when the people were not following the Torah, he says, look at you people. He says, an ox knows who his master is. A donkey knows his job. And you people don't know Hashem. Okay? I have in the back of my house a koi pond. Do you know what a koi pond is? I have in the back of my house, in my backyard, a koi pond. Koi is spelled C-O-Y. You know what a koi pond is? C-O-Y. Did you ever hear that word koi?
I know what it is.
I'll tell you what a koi pond is. It's a pond. It's a little pool. It's like a small pool that has fish inside.
Wow.
What kind of fish do you put outside? Goldfish. Now, they're called koi because goldfish are usually small.
Yeah.
But if they're outside,
They have to be.
they grow. So I bought small I can buy 100 for $7. Like it's a joke. And I take care of them. I feed them. And they're outside. It's cold. It's not heated. In the winter, it's a problem because it's frozen. I have a little heater inside. But these koi fish, I probably have 100 in that pond, and they were bought very small, and now they're getting bigger. When I walk to that pond, just walk by, what do the fish do?
Jumping.
No, they're coming to...
They come all together with their mouths like that.
Yeah.
Why?
Food.
Food. Now, how do fish know that I'm here to give them food? They recognize me, right?
Yeah.
That means that's what Yeshayahu HaNavi says. He says an animal, even a simple animal, doesn't have a sophisticated brain. They know their jobs. They know their jobs. And you, with a sophisticated brain, don't even know who Hashem is. That's what Yeshayahu HaNavi says. And it's very interesting. He says a horse, right? A horse is a big, how heavy is a horse?
400, 500
400, 500 pounds,
Weights tons.
right?
tons.
Tons. It's a big, it's a heavy horse. You put on a horse a saddle, and you get on it, and if it's broken, we're not talking about a wild horse, you ride a horse. Now, why does a horse let you ride on it? Because that's its nature. It does what Hashem wants it to do. If you think any animal can do that, no problem. Try to put the same saddle on a tiger or on a lion. What do you think is going to happen to you?
Dead.
You're going to be dead.
Actually, Rabbi Al-Fasi, when he went from Morocco to Tunis, and he wanted to become a rabbi to Eretz Israel, that's where he stopped. A lion stopped by on Shabbat, others left, they got lost. And he was to catch up with the other team. He sat on the line, and with his shamash, they were riding.
And that's something that we would say, don't try this at home, kids.
Don't try
That's what you would say. That he could do it because Tzaddik can do whatever he wants.
Or like the Daniel and the lions.
That's right, Daniel and the lion's den. Because when they took Daniel out and they put the soldiers in, what happened to those soldiers?
Done.
Before they hit the ground, they were gone. In the air, they jumped up and they got it. So, well, but you try to put a saddle on a polar bear or whatever it is, not going to work. So, you know what? It's so interesting. That means animals have a certain nature, and they do that nature. Yeshayahu HaNavi says they're not smart, they don't necessarily have big brains, but Hashem said, you're in this world to do this, and they do it. And then Hashem puts us in the world and says, you're in this world to do the Torah, and what happens? We don't do it. So like Yeshayahu HaNavi says, I don't get it, he says. Imagine if the horse said no to you. Imagine if you want to plow a field with a cow, and the cow says no.
Stop.
Right. You go to the cow, you want to get milk, and the cow says, not today.
Tomorrow.
Come back tomorrow.
I'm busy.
I'm busy. I don't want to give you milk.
Maybe I give you maybe.
You can't say it because it hurts.
Of course. Of course. It doesn't make sense.
It's even a mitzvah to milk the cow on Shabbat.
Yeah, it's crazy, right? It's crazy stuff here. He says, because that's what it says. What does Hashem want from you? Hashem wants you to, you have to understand, Hashem wants you to do his mitzvahs. You know, you talk about the world. I started earlier about the world, the Eikev of the Mashiach. Think about this. Think about this. I don't know how it was in Russia. Maybe in Russia it was different. In America, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 1950s, 1960s, even 1970s, if you saw a Jew down the street, you would say hello, and he would say hello back. How are you? Where are you from? Whatever it is. You know, today, if you saw a Jew, if you were walking down Borough Park, you see hundreds of Jews. If you would say to a Jew, "Hi," what's the first thing the Jew would say to you? Do I know you? Who are you? You know, like, you know, he doesn't.
Asking questions.
You know, why are you stopping me? Why are you saying hello to me?
Who's?
Yeah, you know, it's not what it is. That means, if you think about it, 50 years ago, would you ever imagine a kid could be in school and a gunman would come in and shoot up a school? It never happened 50 years ago. It didn't happen 40 years ago. It didn't happen 30 years ago.
Now everybody.
Now it happens all. I'm not talking about whether you should or should not go to a movie theater. Did it ever happen 30 or 40? Look back in the history, 30 or 40 years ago. A person had a movie, and a guy takes a gun and shoots 10 people in the movie theater or at a university. It didn't happen. These things didn't happen. The world has gone crazy.
Mentality is different.
The mentality is there's no respect. There's no respect for life. There's no respect for people. You know, people get blown up on buses. People get blown up, shot up at school. The whole thing doesn't make sense. You know, Eikev the Mashiach. We live at a time where you can't listen to the news. It's so depressing most of the time. You know, sometimes the news is good, but most of the time the news is depressing. You can't, people get hurt on the streets. You know, in the last few weeks in Brooklyn, there's like 10 shootings. You know, a woman was pregnant, she lost her baby.
19 people.
Right. But children are getting shot. You know, it doesn't make any sense. It is,
We have a lot of mass shootings.
You have a lot of what?
5 mass shootings.
Sure, mass
5,
shootings.
10, 15 people.
Unbelievable. Like it never happened. We're living at a time where it's so hard to understand the things that are happening and why they're happening.
On the Saturday until today, they said 9 shooting was in New York.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. It's so hard to understand, and yet that's what the world we live in. Okay, question for you to think about. When I go to Israel, I stay in one of the hotels there. Often I stay in the Prima Palace. In Israel, when you pay for your room, included in the room is breakfast. Okay? Now, an Israeli breakfast is different than the American breakfast. What is the Israeli breakfast? It's a big breakfast. You have rolls, you have potatoes, you have eggs, you have almonds, you have cereal, you have coffee, juice. It's like you can eat a breakfast there and it lasts you till supper time. And most of the time it does. We eat a big breakfast, my wife and I, and they give you cake, and we take some of the cake with us. My wife will take some of the milk to the room, but they give you coffee in the room. And then the next meal we go out for is dinner, and we go out in Yerushalayim, wherever we go out to dinner. Let's say I have a nephew or a niece, and I brought stuff from America, so they come in to see us. I say, listen, meet us in the hotel, 9 o'clock, you'll join us for breakfast. Am I allowed to have him join us for breakfast? That means he comes in, now he's going to eat eggs and have a cup of coffee. The truth is, I could have as much as I want. I could have 5 plates of eggs. So at this time, I'm only going to have 2 plates of eggs. I'm going to give him 1 plate. Am I allowed to take the food, and as if it's for me, and give it to him? Or am I not allowed to?
No.
What's the halacha?
You must first do the bracha and after give to them.
Even after the bracha, from the hotel rules. Yeah.
It's like for music, like if you buy it from iTunes, like I heard you cannot give the download to another person.
Correct.
Because
That's
it's stealing.
right. Those are so the answer is no, you can't.
Why?
Because the hotel has a policy that only the guests can eat as much as they want. But outsiders, otherwise I could invite 20 people and eat all the food. Right? So you need permission from the hotel. If you get permission, you can. Now I'll give you an example of that. Usually my flight is Motzoi Shabbat,
Yeah.
around midnight. So I leave to the airport around 9:30. Now Shabbat in the winter is over at 5. After Shabbat is over, my wife and I, we go to the hotel, we walk around Mea Sharim, and then we leave the hotel about 9:30. The hotel has a policy. You must check out 1 hour after Shabbat. So according to the hotel, I have to check out by 6 o'clock or I'm charged an extra day. I want to stay till 9:30. I'm not sleeping over. So if I ask the hotel to stay, and the hotel says no, and they're going to charge me an extra day, who's right? Me or
They're
the hotel?
right.
The answer is they're right.
They, because of
They're
them
right,
owner.
because you have
They're the owner. So what
Yeah.
I do is when I book the hotel, I always ask them, I'm going to be on Mosai Shabbat, I want to stay till 9:30. Do I have permission? Before I book. And I always get from them a letter saying, you have permission to stay till 9:30. And
Because
they
you
always
give the
honor-
letter.
That's right, they give me a letter. And they honor it, and I stay that way. Have a good night, everybody.
Like,
Zag-